dose of positivity in the early morning with our audience, so that all of us get a head start on the day on a very fresh and energetic note. And very shortly, we're going to be having our insight session, which is called Immune System of the Soul. But we always give ourselves an opportunity for about 15-20 minutes before the insight session to really just get to know people from the ground, people who are living out there in the world, but really actively using spirituality in very different, unique, and creative ways to just add value to their life. And I'd like to share with the audience why I invited Brother Faruk to join me this morning is because very often for many reasons, I've met Brother Faruk over 20 years ago, I think possibly 22 years ago now, when I was at that point in time living in the meditation center and observatory, and Brother Faruk had come at that point to learn meditation. And since then, we've had a friendship, and I've had the privilege of receiving a lot of very, very interesting information from Brother Faruk over the years, which I consider to really be something very practical and useful and sensible. Sometimes you get stuff forwarded to you, but there's always a tendency to filter because there's like oodles and oodles of information that gets sent to you. But I must say, whenever I receive any information from Brother Faruk, I definitely will give time to take a look at it, or to listen, or to read, whatever it might be, because it's very, very practical. It's really helping a person to make the best of life, and easy hacks, simple tips, efficiency, time management, all of that comes into the type of stuff that he shares. He's got what's it called? A podcast? Is that it? That's
yes,
that's the word. Yes.
Which is dormant at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the recordings are still up.
Yes,
but,
they are.
There's a podcast called Sensibility, and I think that's the perfect name for it because the type of topics that are there are so sensible and really useful. And more interestingly, as of, I would say, I haven't been counting, Faruk, but I think it might have been over the past maybe 6 years or so, I've been receiving images from you. I'm not sure if it was from prior to that.
No, I think that's
So from about 6 years or so, I've been receiving images because Faruk's now taken up photography and videography in a very beautiful way. And I really look forward to getting these little video clips and receiving these photos because they're not ordinary. And that's the main reason why I invited Faruk this morning, is because when I open up those images or those video clips, I really feel pulled into a very deep, silent space, a meditative space. And I know when I'm viewing these things that when he took that picture or he was putting that video clip together, that he was also meditating. You can feel the energy. And I know that this obviously is this particular soul's expression of spirituality and experience of spirituality. And that's one of the main reasons why I invited you, Faruk. So I'm going to hand over to you now. And I'd like for you to share more with our audience about your concept of spirituality and how you integrate spirituality in a very fun, creative, meaningful, practical way in your life.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks. So good morning to you, and thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share some of the things I've learned along the way. I won't be as so bold to put myself in a category to say my pictures are spiritual, or I'm a spiritual photographer, or anything like that. But what I do try to do is apply what I've learned in my spiritual quest in every aspect of my life. And photography just happens to be one of them. And with the advent of digital photography, I think it's maybe an appropriate time to look at what photography means to us, because at no time in our history have we taken so many pictures at any one time. And I read a statistic over the weekend while I was doing some research for our discussion this morning, that something like 40,000 pictures are taken globally every second. And I just wonder where people have the time to actually look at all of these, where they store it. And I can appreciate why people run out of time and space on their telephones and computers. So some technical information to start the process off. The difference between a picture and a photograph simply means that one was planned and the other wasn't. And there are times, I'll concede, where you get a photograph in a moment of spontaneity, where you just happen to be at the right place at the right time, you point in the right direction, the camera understands perfectly what you want, and it records exactly what you see. But those moments are fleeting and very rarely all connected in a straight line. It's very much like meditation experiences. They just kind of surprise you when they do happen, and you wish they happened more often. And you spend more of your time trying to find out why they happened or how they happened, so you can repeat that process. So that's on the one side. So as an example, if you were taking a picture of a cake you made because you just wanted to record it, that would be a picture. But if you wanted to record a moment which doesn't happen often in a day or over a calendar year, and you wanted a specific picture of a sunset over a building or close to a tower or rising over a hill, that requires a little more planning, a little more understanding of the technical elements, the ability to understand how things operate in the natural environment. And then you have something special, which, as Diven said earlier, you look at it and you can see that some thought has actually gone into the photograph. And it leaves people wondering how you got that picture, because very often it requires you to go out very early in the morning while it's still dark and everyone's asleep, or very late at night. And those moments, I think, are just things that you cherish for the rest of your life. So the other difference is worth understanding is what the difference between a photographer and a professional photographer, so amateur and professional. And it doesn't mean that one takes better pictures than the other. I often look at Aruna's pictures, and they're snapped on a cell phone camera, and I can tell it's not a great camera. The quality is not so good, but you can see that the eye has seen something, and something stands out about that picture. And often I look at her pictures, and I suggested it a few weeks ago that she get a better camera so that she can better record what she sees. So the technical elements aside, a professional photographer just means you get paid, or you're generating a livelihood out of your photography. It doesn't mean that they are better or apart from the rest of us amateurs. And I still consider myself an amateur. So having said all of that, the photography has been a journey for me, which started, I think, when I was at high school. And I was very fortunate this was in the days before television. And I had an uncle in the family, and what he would do is take pictures on slides. And every Friday night, he would put up his screen and his projector, and all the kids would pile into this little lounge. And we'd look at these pictures blown up as large as screens in boardrooms today. And that was just a memory that is etched into my head and will never be able to get out. So that inspired me to take pictures for two reasons. I remember as a child and with all of my cousins, the joy it brought us. And I also remember glimpses of the joy it brought to him as he hit the little cable remote to advance the slides from one to the next. And that was something that I thought I would like to do. So often, even one of the reasons you look at things that I send you is not because they're special in any way or different from everyone else, but because they are themed. So you won't get a recipe today and an article about a conspiracy theory tomorrow and something else, etc. I've taken the time to understand a little bit about maybe what you respond to, and those are the things I share with you.
Okay.
And not shared with you specifically, but I have little groups of people. So I know people who like this or that, etc. And I share in a specific way. And that is something that I take into my photography as well. So there are three elements in my photography from a spiritual point of view that I apply. The first thing is in photographic terms, there are rules, and they tell you should have a foreground and a background, and something should have depth of field, in other words, what's in focus or clear, and where you should position subjects and how all of this ties together. And I just throw all of that out of the window. And I took the numbers 1, 0, and 8. Something that has always puzzled me, something that I've read a lot about and pondered. And I read somewhere in one of the Buddhist articles that the numbers 1, 0, 8 signify three things. One thing, the 1, nothing, the 0, and everything, which is the 8, which is the sign of infinity. So when people ask me, I once posted a picture of an autumn scene with a tree shedding its leaves and a bench. And around the bench was some leaves that had fallen onto the grass, which was still green. And a troll commented, "What's the subject, the tree or the bench?" And I just left a little reply and I said, "The leaves on the tree." So I take pictures of everything. I take pictures of nothing, or I take pictures of one thing. You decide what you want to see. And that for me is an important aspect in my photography. Then the second element that I take into my photography is my universal outlook. And I've met many people on my travels, and in casual discussions, we sometimes talk about spirituality, and they casually say to me, "Oh, everything's connected." And that is something in my meditation that I've never experienced. I've never experienced a connection to everything in the environment. So what I try to show in my photography is that we are all connected. And the one thing that connects us is we share the same sky. And the sky is a very important component in many, many pictures. It's either cloudy, it's starry if you're taking pictures at night. But that's something which allows me to connect to this everything. And even if it's just some or one thing that I see in a picture like the sky that I can connect to, it allows me to feel that connectedness with everyone else. The connection for me doesn't come in sharing it, because I get different responses from people. If I share a picture, let's say with 50 people, there are a group of people who never reply to anything. You don't know whether they've received it or not. And maybe this is one of the pictures that just disappears into that hole you mentioned earlier about, I'll read this when I get time. But then a year later, I see them using it as a status picture or as a profile picture. And then that gives me a little bit of satisfaction to say, okay, this image did something to this person. They kept it and are now using it. So the aspect of that 108 in an image. So one of the very common things that happens today on the internet is people steal images. So I might be on your website, or I might see a picture that you've taken and I steal it and I post it to my Instagram account, etc. And I've run into many people online who are extremely territorial, very possessive, and they will throw all their toys out of the cot if you just use their picture in a way that they didn't anticipate or without their permission or anything like that. So what I tried to do, and I have a comment in the metadata of each of my images, and the comment just says, this picture may be used freely for any purpose other than commercially. So I take those pictures, and for me, they're not my pictures, but they're just maybe my unique view of a scene or something, but I set them free. They have lives of their own. And unless you're a business and you'd like to use one of my images for commercial purposes, you are welcome to do anything you like with the images. And I think that for me also from a detachment point of view is important. You know, how can you own a picture? Today it's something digital. It's like ones and zeros on a computer. We don't even print them out. And with the whole technology changing and moving towards the new non-fungible assets, you know, it's not something that you can own or possess, but it is something that I think you should be able to share. So that journey for me continues, and it's something that I enjoy because I've got a technical mind. So I don't just arrive somewhere and start taking pictures. I do some research on the place. I look at other pictures that were taken of a location. I look at the times that are best suited to actually capture something. And what has helped me a great deal is the work that I do for Pam Golding in Mpumalanga. I don't know if many people know, but I've in the last year, I've started to do work with the real estate company, and I do all of their photography and videography for their homes. So that requires some insight. You can't just come into a 5 or 6 million rand home and start pointing and taking pictures. You need to plan a walkthrough. You need to understand certain things, and some houses are just ugly. So for me, another spiritual aspect is it forces me to look for the good things in that home. What will sell this home? And I've changed all of the agents to also think outside of their little boxes, which say lounge, dining room, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, into moving away from features to benefits or lifestyle. So if it's got a pool deck and it's got an outdoor entertainment area, what it encourages whoever lives there to do is live a lifestyle in that direction. Or if it's in an area where things are very silent and the neighborhood is very quiet, then it appeals to different people. So it's very interesting for me to see how their mindset has changed as well, from just selling blocks of concrete to looking at a home in a different way. And I had an interesting experience exactly a week ago in Lydenburg, where I met one of the agents, Madeleine, and the house was absolutely stunning, but it was completely surrounded by high density complexes, and all you could see were these horrible rows of roofs. And I realized that the instant the drone got up to about 20 meters. So I did take some footage and came home, processed it. And when I shared it with her, she sent me a message and just said, and you're not using drone photography because, and ... So I sent her a message back and I said, look, there's a contrast between where the house is contextually and what is inside the house, and when you look specifically at the house. And I think they don't work together. So after about an hour, I just got a simple statement that says, I agree, what are you going to do about it? So I said, well, I'm there in 2 weeks and I will shoot the aerial footage in the afternoon when the sun is behind me, and I'll put the mountain range into it. And it's not really lying, but what it is showing the good about specific property. And yes, we're using it for sales purposes, but what it's likely to do is attract the kind of buyer that they want to do. So I hope that gives you some information and a little bit of insight into my meditation in front of and behind the camera.
Yes, absolutely.
And the last element that I wanted to share with you is Disney as an organization is something I've always admired from the time that they set out buying property in Orlando right up to today, is they introduced the concept in the very early days of the internet of something called multiplying memories. So it works like this. If you are going to visit Disney World, the first thing you would do is visit their website. And you look at the different rides that they've got, and you read reviews that other people have read, and you look at tips and tricks and how to jump queues and how to get the most out of your time there. And then you actually book your tour or your day, and you go through the process. And thereafter, you go through a process of sharing all the pictures and videos and everything else associated with your visit. So you've taken one experience and you've multiplied it before and after the fact. And that for me is something I find quite appealing, is why enjoy something good just once when you can enjoy it 3 times? And with an image, what I've seen is that those memories just continue to multiply. The photo has a life of its own. And if it brings joy to someone, I'm happy. And I'm not energized by the comments that I get back to say, oh, great photo, or that's not what energizes me at all. What I'm energized by is the fact that the photo or 30-second video has allowed someone to escape from their problems or their mundaneness or the busyness associated with their lives, and just connect just the way I did for those 30 seconds. So it's kind of me force feeding meditation on people as well.
Not really force feeding. I mean, as I introduced it in the beginning, that was my experience. Every time I open up an image or a video clip, it is my experience. So I would say nourishing, not force feeding. But anyway, Faruk, we've come to the closure of our time together, and I wish we had a chance to actually chat more. It's so interesting, and it would have been nice to actually take a look at a few of your pictures and video clips maybe the next time.
Yes,
we can
pleasure.
have that available. Yeah, but really, thank you for giving us your 20 minutes in the morning.
You're very welcome.
And there you spoke of Aruna. She's joining us. She's going to be doing the insight session. So at least you have a chance to say hello to her. Just to let our audience know, Faruk and Aruna are actually childhood friends. I think they went to primary school and high school together, is it?
High school, the last 3 years of high school.
Okay. And so the friendship still continues.
Good morning, and it's lovely to have you, Faruk. And Henry, thank you so much for that. It's very interesting. And yes, I must agree that Faruk's pictures, photos have always amazed me, always taken me into an adventure. Like I'm really there. And so, yeah, and I think the whole concept behind the spirituality, the meditation, it really allows one to experience your inner self but creativity. And I think Faruk takes his time, and I think it's really, I really admire the pictures and the time he's taken to really develop such a niche, of taking those pictures, but beautiful, lovely. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Aruna. You're welcome.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. So warm welcome to everyone this morning, and I'm sure we